Have you noticed a subtle change in the way the air feels lately, not only physically but emotionally? A quiet sensation that something is becoming lighter, even if the world still looks the same. Some of you feel it as a calmer nervous system. Others feel it as fewer intrusive thoughts, less inner noise, less pressure to react. And some feel it as a strange certainty. Something that was heavy is beginning to loosen. We speak to you now because this is not imagination. It is not wishful thinking. It is the early signature of a restoration process that begins in the field before it becomes visible in matter. When we say unpolluted skies are returning, we are not speaking only about atmosphere. We are speaking about the clearing of interference, the reduction of distortion that has been held in place for a long time. The sky is not only above you. The sky is also what surrounds your mind, your emotions, your perception. And here is what most humans were never taught. The Earth and the human being share one energetic ecosystem. You do not live on the planet as something separate. You live inside her field, and she lives inside yours. When one begins to restore, the other responds automatically. This is why the same restoration that clears the Earth also clears you. When the planet's energetic field becomes less dense, the human nervous system begins to relax. You may notice more spacious breathing, deeper sleep, less agitation without a clear reason. This is not because nothing is happening. It is because something is happening quietly beneath the level of public attention. Many will try to frame this as a political event or a secret operation. But our perspective is different, and it is more precise. This is not rescue. This is not spectacle. This is correction through coherence. A living system restores itself when interference is reduced. The human body does this. The Earth does this. When pressure and distortion decrease, regulation returns. So what you are sensing is the beginning of that regulation returning. First as subtle shifts in the field, then as changes in behavior, and later as visible changes in the environment. In this transmission, we will explain what is truly meant by a white hat move. Not as a group you must believe in, and not as a story you must follow, but as a pattern, the withdrawal of energetic support from what harms life. Because that is how restoration begins. When humanity stops feeding harmful systems, emotionally, mentally, and materially, those systems weaken. And as they weaken, the Earth breathes. As the Earth breathes, humanity stabilizes. It is one movement in two forms. We are the Pleiadians. Our role is not to intervene physically. Our role is to stabilize the emotional field of humanity so that this restoration does not become chaos. We help reduce fear surges, prevent fragmentation, and support coherence while old patterns lose their hold. This is why you are here. You felt the signal before you had words for it. So allow yourself to notice the quiet evidence. The moments of calm that appear without explanation. The sense that you no longer tolerate what feels artificial. The subtle return of inner space. The sky begins to clear when the inner sky begins to clear. And when the clearing begins, it is not temporary. It is the start of a phase where the Earth and the human field restore together, and both benefit automatically. To understand what is unfolding now, it is essential to change how the Earth is perceived. She is not a passive surface. She is not a broken system, and she is not waiting to be rescued. The Earth is a self-regulating living organism. Just as the human body responds to prolonged stress with imbalance, exhaustion, and inflammation, the planet responds to extended periods of incoherence with environmental strain. These responses are not punishment. They are regulatory signals. Signals that the natural rhythm of balance has been overridden for too long. When interference is constant, a living system compensates. When distortion is prolonged, it adapts in order to survive. And when pressure finally begins to ease, the system does what it is designed to do. It restores itself. This principle is universal. You have observed it in your own body. When sustained stress ends, balance does not return instantly. The nervous system unwinds gradually. Tension releases in layers. Old symptoms may surface briefly before dissolving. Regulation does not occur through force, but through the removal of ongoing interference. The Earth functions in the same way. Environmental imbalance is not the result of random failure. It is the outcome of long-term energetic, emotional, technological, and behavioral interference. When these pressures begin to lose support, restoration starts automatically. This is why the idea of cleaning the planet misses the core mechanism. The Earth does not need to be cleaned. She needs distortion to stop being sustained. As this happens, her field reorganizes. Atmospheric systems begin to recalibrate. Natural cycles regain coherence. Regeneration becomes possible again, not because something new was imposed, but because something harmful is no longer being reinforced. And this process does not remain external. When the Earth's field stabilizes, the human field stabilizes simultaneously. You may experience this as reduced background anxiety, less emotional pressure, a quieter mind, or a subtle sense of relief that arrives without explanation. These are not personal mood fluctuations. They are responses to a changing planetary field. You are not separate from this process. You are inside it. This is why restoration cannot be divided into environmental healing and human healing. They are one movement expressed through two interconnected systems. When one begins to regulate, the other benefits immediately. This is also why fear-based narratives begin to lose effectiveness. Fear depends on unstable fields. As regulation returns, urgency weakens. Artificial conflict loses momentum. Control mechanisms struggle to maintain relevance. From our perspective, what is happening now is not the beginning of an event. It is the continuation of a correction already in motion. The Earth does not announce when she restores herself. She simply responds when interference decreases. And humanity feels that response long before it becomes visible. What follows is a clear explanation of what is meant by a white hat move and why it emerges naturally when coherence returns to the system. To move forward with clarity, it is necessary to remove confusion around the term white hat move. Many associate it with secret groups, hidden heroes, or dramatic interventions. That interpretation keeps attention external and feeds expectation. What we describe here is more precise and more fundamental. A white hat move is not a rescue operation. It is a correction that becomes possible when harmful systems lose energetic support. In every living system, damage continues only while it is being sustained. When support is withdrawn emotionally, mentally, energetically, and materially, the system can no longer operate in the same way. It weakens. It dissolves. It reorganizes. This is how correction truly occurs. A white hat move does not require confrontation. It does not require exposure. It does not require permission. It happens when distortion can no longer feed itself. This applies equally to human behavior and to planetary processes. When fear, urgency, and unconscious participation decrease, actions that harm life lose momentum. They do not disappear overnight, but they become unsustainable. This is why restoration feels quiet. From our perspective, the most powerful corrective actions are rarely visible at first. They occur in the field where decisions are shaped, tolerance is withdrawn, and coherence begins to dominate over impulse. When humans stop reacting automatically, systems that depend on reaction weaken. When humans stop feeding distortion, distortion collapses by inertia. This is the essence of a white hat move. It is not someone acting for humanity. It is humanity no longer sustaining what harms life. And as this withdrawal happens collectively, the Earth responds immediately. Less interference allows natural regulation to return. The skies begin to clear energetically before they clear physically. The environment responds to reduced pressure long before measurements confirm it. This is why linking white hat moves only to external agents misses the core mechanism. The most decisive shift is internal. External correction follows internal coherence. Before continuing, it is important to anchor this understanding at the level where it becomes lived rather than conceptual. Take a brief pause. Notice where you no longer feel willing to participate in what feels wrong, excessive, or harmful. That withdrawal is already in action. Now stabilize it. Write in the comments, "I allow what harms life to lose support as coherence returns to Earth and to me." Writing this sentence aligns your emotional field with the same corrective process occurring planetarily. It reinforces the withdrawal of energy from destructive patterns without creating conflict or resistance, allowing both the human system and the Earth system to recalibrate naturally. This is how correction unfolds, not through force, but through coherence becoming dominant. What follows is a deeper look at what unpolluted skies truly mean, and why the human benefits automatically as the Earth restores her balance. When we speak of unpolluted skies, it is important to move beyond a purely physical image. The sky is not only the atmosphere above the planet. It is also the field that surrounds perception, emotion, and thought. Pollution does not begin in the air. It begins in the field of decision. Long before substances appear in the atmosphere, interference is present in intention, urgency, and unconscious behavior. When these patterns persist, they manifest physically. When they withdraw, the physical world responds in time. This is why the clearing of the skies begins energetically. As interference loses support, the planetary field becomes less dense. Regulation resumes. Natural processes regain space to function without constant disruption. The Earth does not need instruction to do this. She has always known how to balance herself. What changes is the level of pressure applied to her systems. When pressure decreases, the atmosphere responds. Air circulation adjusts. Chemical load stabilizes. Cycles that were strained begin to normalize. These changes do not occur dramatically. They occur systemically, the way healing unfolds in any living organism. At the same time, the human being responds. As the planetary field becomes clearer, the human nervous system receives less background stress. Many experience this as improved breathing, calmer sleep, and a quieter internal environment. This is not coincidence. It is resonance. A less polluted sky creates a less polluted inner space. You may notice that clarity comes more easily, that attention stabilizes without effort, that the body feels less on guard. These are signs that the surrounding field is no longer signaling constant threat. This is how the Earth supports humanity when she restores herself. The benefit is automatic. No belief is required. No participation is demanded. The human system responds because it is designed to respond. This is also why fear-based narratives struggle to maintain intensity during such phases. Fear relies on environmental tension. When the field softens, fear loses its leverage. It becomes harder to sustain urgency, panic, and artificial division. From our perspective, unpolluted skies represent transparency returning to the system. Less interference, less concealment, less distortion between cause and effect. This transparency benefits all levels of life. The Earth breathes more freely. The human mind settles more naturally. The emotional field stabilizes without suppression. This is not idealism. It is regulation. Unpolluted skies are not a promise of perfection. They are a sign that the system is no longer being forced beyond its capacity. And when force ends, healing begins. This understanding prepares the ground for what follows, how the human automatically benefits from planetary restoration, and why no effort is required to receive that benefit. As the Earth begins to restore her energetic balance, the human system responds immediately. This response is not symbolic. It is biological, emotional, and neurological. The human body is designed to register changes in the surrounding field long before the mind interprets them. When the planetary field becomes less dense, the human nervous system exits constant alert. The background signal of threat weakens. Muscles release tension they have been holding unconsciously. Breathing deepens without instruction. Sleep becomes more restorative without effort. This is not personal improvement. It is environmental regulation. For a long time, humanity adapted to living inside a strained field. Stress became normalized. Hypervigilance became familiar. Many believed these states were personal traits. They were not. They were responses to prolonged planetary pressure. As that pressure eases, the body remembers how to regulate itself. Emotionally, this appears as less volatility. Reactions lose intensity. Feelings still arise, but they do not overwhelm. The emotional field no longer needs to defend itself constantly. This creates space for discernment rather than impulse. Mentally, the effect is equally clear. Thoughts slow. The mind stops scanning endlessly for threat or confirmation. Clarity emerges without analysis. Many experience fewer intrusive thoughts and less mental fatigue. This is not discipline. It is relief. The human benefits automatically because the human is not separate from the Earth's field. You are not reacting to news or ideas alone. You are responding to changes in the environment that supports your nervous system. This is why people often feel better in nature. It is not scenery. It is regulation. When the surrounding field is coherent, the body aligns effortlessly. As restoration continues, this effect expands beyond individual experience. Social interactions soften. Collective agitation decreases. Extremes lose emotional fuel. This does not eliminate disagreement, but it reduces hostility. Communication becomes less charged. From our perspective, this is one of the most misunderstood aspects of planetary restoration. Humans often believe they must do something to receive benefit. In truth, the greatest benefit arrives when interference stops. You do not need to force calm. You do not need to convince yourself of safety. You do not need to participate in restoration efforts beyond coherence. The system does the rest. This does not mean passivity. It means accuracy. Action that emerges from a regulated state is more effective and less destructive. Decisions made from clarity naturally reduce harm. Consumption patterns change without moral struggle. Choices simplify. As the Earth stabilizes, the human capacity for presence returns. And with presence comes a different relationship to time. Less urgency, less pressure, more appropriate response. This is how planetary restoration supports human evolution without command or control. The benefit is mutual and simultaneous. As the Earth breathes more freely, humanity remembers how to do the same. This is not a future promise. It is a process already underway. What follows is an explanation of how this shared restoration deepens when inner and outer coherence align, and how conscious stabilization accelerates what is already happening naturally. What is happening now follows a single mechanism expressed on two levels: inner coherence and outer restoration. They are not separate processes running in parallel. They are the same correction moving through different layers of the same field. When the human stabilizes internally, the Earth receives that stabilization. When the Earth stabilizes, the human nervous system responds immediately. This is not philosophy. It is field dynamics. For a long time, humanity attempted to repair damage through effort alone. Laws, controls, and forced solutions were applied while the internal field remained fragmented. This created temporary improvements but sustained long-term strain. A system cannot heal while the source of interference remains active. Now the sequence has reversed. Coherence is returning first, quietly, and behavior is adjusting naturally afterward. When fear loses dominance, decisions change. When urgency weakens, exploitation loses justification. When emotional reactivity decreases, destructive momentum slows. This is why restoration feels subtle rather than dramatic. A living system heals when the stressor is removed, not when it is fought continuously. The human body knows this. The Earth knows this. The same intelligence governs both. As inner stabilization increases, humans naturally withdraw energy from what feels excessive, harmful, or artificial. This withdrawal is not moral judgment. It is loss of resonance. And when resonance is gone, participation ends without conflict. This is the point where the inner and outer processes lock together. Reduced participation weakens harmful systems. Weakened systems reduce planetary strain. Reduced planetary strain calms the human field further. The cycle reinforces itself. This is why no centralized control is required for meaningful change. Regulation emerges from coherence, not authority. The Earth responds to frequency, not ideology. You may notice this within yourself as a growing intolerance for distortion, not as anger but as disinterest. What once demanded reaction now feels irrelevant. What once seemed unavoidable now appears unnecessary. This is the signature of stabilization. At this stage, conscious alignment strengthens the process, not through effort but through acknowledgement. When coherence is recognized, it stabilizes faster. Pause briefly and notice the simplicity of this moment. Nothing needs to be fixed right now. Nothing needs to be resisted. Now anchor this recognition. Write in the comments, "As I stabilize my inner field, I allow Earth to restore hers, and I receive that balance in return." Writing this sentence reinforces the natural coupling between human coherence and planetary regulation. It signals permission for the nervous system to remain regulated during change, allowing restoration to deepen without fear or control. From this stabilized position, the process accelerates naturally, not as urgency but as clarity. What follows is an explanation of why this restoration is progressive rather than immediate, and why patience is not delay, but intelligence in motion. As restoration continues, a common misunderstanding arises: the expectation of immediacy. Many assume that once interference begins to withdraw, balance should return all at once. This expectation itself comes from a system that has lived under pressure for too long. Living systems do not restore through shock. They restore through gradual re-regulation. When a body exits chronic stress, it does not snap into perfect balance. It unwinds. Layers release in sequence. Old compensations dissolve slowly so that stability is not lost. The Earth follows the same intelligence. Planetary restoration is progressive because it must be sustainable. If pressure were removed too abruptly, ecosystems would destabilize. If long-held patterns collapsed all at once, both human and planetary systems would experience shock. Regulation requires pacing. Intelligence chooses continuity over spectacle. This is why restoration appears subtle at first. The most important changes occur below the threshold of visibility. Decision-making patterns shift. Participation decreases. Technologies and practices that once seemed indispensable lose relevance. This happens quietly because quiet change is stable change. From our perspective, patience is not waiting. Patience is allowing intelligence to sequence correction properly. You may notice moments where progress feels slow, followed by periods where adjustment accelerates naturally. This rhythm is intentional. It allows integration at each stage before movement continues. For the human being, this pacing is essential. As the Earth restores, the human nervous system recalibrates alongside her. Too much change too quickly would overwhelm regulation. Progressive restoration gives the body time to learn safety again. It allows emotion to settle without suppression. It gives the mind space to release vigilance. This is why forcing outcomes is counterproductive. Force recreates interference. Urgency reintroduces pressure. Pressure delays restoration. The most effective contribution at this stage is non-interference. Remaining coherent, grounded, and responsive rather than reactive allows the system to complete its work. You may feel periods of uncertainty during this progression. Old reference points dissolve before new ones fully stabilize. This is not failure. It is transition. Stability is being rebuilt on a different foundation. During this phase, clarity often deepens before certainty appears. You sense alignment before you can explain it. You feel direction before you can articulate it. This is the body and the field recalibrating together. Understand this clearly. Restoration does not require belief. It does not require effort. It requires time without resistance. The Earth is not behind schedule. Humanity is not late. The process unfolds according to the intelligence that sustains life, not according to expectation. This is why dramatic predictions repeatedly fail. They attempt to compress what must unfold gradually. They mistake visibility for effectiveness. From our perspective, the absence of spectacle is a sign that restoration is working. As patience stabilizes, something important happens. Trust returns. Not trust in authority or outcomes, but trust in regulation itself. The system demonstrates that it knows how to restore when interference ends. This trust changes how you relate to the future. You stop scanning for events. You stop bracing for impact. You remain present while coherence does its work. This is not disengagement. It is maturity. And as this maturity spreads, restoration deepens without resistance. What follows is an exploration of the role of the conscious human within this process, not as a fixer, but as a stabilizing presence that allows what is already unfolding to complete itself naturally. As restoration progresses, it becomes clear that the role of the conscious human is often misunderstood. Many believe they must intervene, correct, or carry responsibility for outcomes beyond their reach. This belief itself adds pressure to a system that is already learning how to regulate again. The conscious human is not here to fix the planet. The conscious human is here to stop amplifying interference. This distinction is essential. A stabilizing presence does not push against the current. It reduces turbulence so the current can correct itself. When the human field is coherent, it no longer feeds systems built on urgency, excess, or distortion. Participation ends quietly. Attention withdraws. Energy returns to what sustains life. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is accurate engagement. Accuracy means responding only where response is necessary. It means acting from clarity rather than compulsion. It means recognizing when action is useful and when restraint is intelligence. A regulated system does not overreact. It responds proportionally. As the Earth restores, she does not ask humanity to do more. She asks humanity to interfere less. This is why conscious humans often feel drawn to simplicity during this phase. Consumption patterns change without moral struggle. Choices narrow naturally. What once felt essential now feels excessive. This is not loss. It is alignment. From our perspective, the most powerful contribution a human can offer now is emotional regulation. A regulated emotional field reduces collective noise. It weakens feedback loops of fear and aggression. It allows coherent signals to travel further without distortion. You may notice that your presence affects environments differently than before. Rooms feel calmer. Conversations soften. Conflict de-escalates without argument. This is not influence in the traditional sense. It is field stabilization. Stabilization spreads through proximity. This is why conscious humans often underestimate their impact. They are not loud. They are not dramatic. They are effective because they do not add strain. They do not need to convince. Their coherence speaks through absence of reaction. As more humans occupy this role, the collective field becomes easier to regulate. Extremes lose fuel. Harmful practices lose social permission. Decisions adjust quietly because the environment no longer supports distortion. This is the true function of awareness at this stage. You are not asked to carry vision for the future. You are asked to remain coherent in the present. When coherence is sustained, the system reorganizes around it. The Earth responds to reduced pressure. Humanity benefits from the Earth's stabilization. The loop reinforces itself. This is how restoration accelerates without force. By understanding your role correctly, effort dissolves. Responsibility becomes lighter. You stop pushing against what is already moving. You allow intelligence to complete its work. This prepares the ground for the next phase, the stabilization of the collective field and the visible shifts that emerge once regulation becomes widespread. We continue by clarifying how collective stabilization takes shape and why it does not require agreement to become effective. As restoration deepens, attention naturally shifts from the individual to the collective. Many assume that collective change requires consensus, coordination, or shared belief. This assumption belongs to an older model of influence. In reality, collective stabilization does not require agreement. It requires enough coherence to change the dominant field. A collective field responds to frequency, not opinion. When a sufficient number of human nervous systems exit chronic reactivity, the background tone of the environment changes. Emotional volatility decreases. Extremes lose traction. What once spread quickly begins to stall. This is not ideology dissolving ideology. It is regulation dissolving excess. You may notice that certain narratives no longer generate the same emotional charge. Stories that once provoked fear or outrage now feel repetitive, hollow, or exaggerated. This does not happen because information disappears, but because the field no longer amplifies it. As coherence spreads, collective attention reorganizes itself. This is why stabilization often appears invisible at first. Institutions may look unchanged. Structures may still stand. But the emotional authority that sustained them weakens. They continue on momentum rather than relevance. From our perspective, this is a critical stage. When collective regulation increases, decision-making shifts subtly. Reactions slow. Choices become less impulsive. Harmful actions face natural resistance, not through force, but through loss of tolerance and participation. This is how large systems begin to correct themselves. The Earth responds directly to this shift. Reduced collective agitation lowers environmental pressure. Less frantic activity means fewer aggressive interventions. The planet receives space to continue restoring herself without additional strain. Humanity benefits simultaneously. A calmer collective field reduces social stress. Interactions soften. Conflict de-escalates more easily. Even those unaware of the process feel its effects. Regulation does not require understanding to function. This is why collective stabilization is not announced. It is felt. Before moving forward, it is important to consciously anchor your place within this collective recalibration, not as responsibility, but as participation through coherence. Pause briefly. Notice the steadiness available when you do not react. Recognize that this steadiness contributes beyond your personal life. Now anchor that contribution. Write in the comments, "I remain grounded as the collective field stabilizes," allowing clarity to replace reaction. Writing this sentence reinforces emotional regulation in relation to the collective. It supports your nervous system in remaining steady during social and environmental shifts, allowing you to contribute to stabilization without absorbing collective stress. From this grounded position, the transition continues to unfold with less friction, personally, socially, and planetarily. What follows is a clarification of our role as Pleiadians within this process, and why stabilization requires support without intervention. At this point, it is important to clarify our role with precision so that no misunderstanding remains. We do not intervene in planetary processes, and we do not direct human decisions. What is unfolding now does not require control. It requires stability. Our role is to support stabilization without interference. When coherence increases across a system, pressure also increases temporarily. Old structures lose support, patterns dissolve. This transition can create emotional surges if not regulated. Our function is to buffer these surges, so that restoration unfolds without panic, collapse, or fragmentation. We work primarily at the level of the emotional field. The emotional field is the bridge between inner experience and external action. When it becomes overloaded, fear amplifies, and reaction replaces discernment. When it is stabilized, clarity can move through the system without distortion. This is where our presence is most effective. We do not impose calm. We reinforce conditions in which calm can return naturally. This reinforcement is subtle. It does not appear as instruction, command, or visible influence. It appears as a reduction in emotional intensity, a softening of collective agitation, a slowing of impulsive response. These effects allow humans to remain present while old patterns lose relevance. This same support extends to the planetary field. As human emotional regulation increases, the Earth systems receive less disruptive input. Our role is to help synchronize this process so that restoration does not outpace human integration. When change moves too quickly, systems destabilize. When change is supported, systems adapt. This is why we emphasize pacing. Restoration is not delayed. It is sequenced intelligently. Many expect guidance to arrive as answers or predictions. That is not how stabilization works. Guidance at this stage is not about telling you what will happen. It is about reducing the emotional noise that prevents you from responding accurately. When noise decreases, intelligence becomes accessible. You may experience our support as an unexpected sense of steadiness during uncertain moments, or as the absence of fear where fear once dominated. These are not coincidences. They are signs that the field is being regulated effectively. As coherence becomes self-sustaining within humanity, our role naturally recedes. Not because support ends, but because it is no longer needed in the same way. Stabilization becomes internalized. Regulation becomes embodied. This is the goal. A mature system does not depend on constant external support. It integrates support until it becomes its own stabilizing force. Humanity is moving toward this threshold. From our perspective, this moment marks a transition from correction to consolidation. The system is no longer resisting regulation. It is learning to sustain it. As this consolidation continues, visible changes begin to follow. Not suddenly, but unmistakably. What has been stabilized internally starts to express externally. What follows is a look at how this internal stabilization becomes visible in the world, and why the signs appear only after regulation has taken root. When stabilization reaches a certain depth, it no longer remains confined to the inner field. What has been reorganized internally begins to express itself externally, not as spectacle but as inevitability. This is the moment when many begin to notice change, even though the process has been underway for some time. Visibility is always a late stage of restoration. First, coherence returns to the field. Then, regulation stabilizes the system. Only after that does form begin to change. This is why those who are sensitive often feel relief long before evidence appears. They respond to the field before the mind can point to proof. The world feels different even while it looks familiar. As stabilization becomes widespread, certain patterns lose momentum. Practices that depended on constant pressure, secrecy, or tolerance quietly diminish. They are not always exposed. They simply stop working as they once did. Participation drops. Support fades. Relevance dissolves. This is how change expresses itself without conflict. In the environmental field, this appears as gradual normalization. Cycles that were strained begin to regulate. Excessive interference becomes less frequent. Systems that once required constant correction regain the ability to self-balance. These changes do not announce themselves. They become noticeable because the background strain lessens. Humanity benefits immediately. When the environment stabilizes, the human body receives clearer signals of safety. Stress hormones reduce. Cognitive bandwidth expands. Decision-making improves. These are not isolated improvements. They are responses to a more coherent surrounding field. Socially, visibility takes a different form. Narratives that thrived on urgency lose emotional traction. Extremes become harder to sustain. People disengage from constant stimulation not because they are indifferent, but because their nervous systems no longer crave intensity. Attention reorganizes itself around what is meaningful rather than what is loud. This creates a quiet shift in influence. Those who regulate rather than provoke become central. Leadership changes tone. Authority flows towards steadiness instead of dominance. Cooperation becomes more functional than competition. These shifts do not require agreement. They occur because the field rewards coherence. From our perspective, this is one of the clearest indicators that restoration is real. When systems begin to favor regulation over reaction, the correction has taken root. It is important to understand that visibility does not mean completion. Restoration is ongoing, but once stabilization is visible, reversal becomes unlikely. A system that has relearned regulation does not easily return to chronic imbalance. This is why patience during earlier phases is essential. What appears slow is actually foundational. Once the foundation is stable, expression accelerates naturally. You may notice that you no longer feel the need to track progress. The urge to monitor outcomes fades. Trust replaces vigilance. This does not come from belief. It comes from experience of regulation. At this stage, many realize something important. The future does not feel threatening anymore. It feels navigable. Uncertainty remains, but it no longer destabilizes. The system has learned how to respond without panic. This is the gift of stabilization. From here, the role of the conscious human becomes simpler. There is less to manage, less to resist, less to correct. Presence is enough. Coherence continues to radiate. Participation becomes selective and effective. As this continues, Restoration expresses itself wherever interference has withdrawn, in the earth, in humanity, and in the relationship between them. What remains is not anticipation, but integration. And this brings us to the final consolidation of this transmission, where the process is sealed not through instruction, but through recognition of what is already underway. What has been shared in this transmission does not describe a future event. It describes a state that is already stabilizing. The process unfolding now does not require belief, attention, or effort to continue. It moves forward because the conditions that sustain distortion are losing support. The Earth restores as interference weakens. Humanity stabilizes as the Earth's field stabilizes. These are not separate processes. They are one movement expressed through two forms. When the planetary field becomes less strained, the human nervous system responds immediately. Tension releases without instruction. Attention steadies without force. Emotional reactivity softens naturally. This is not personal achievement. It is regulation returning to the environment. At the same time, as humans reduce fear-driven behavior, unconscious participation, and constant reaction, the Earth receives immediate relief. Pressure decreases. Cycles begin to normalize. Restoration continues quietly, without announcement. This exchange has always existed. What is changing now is which frequency sustains the system. For a long time, distortion reinforced distortion. Stress amplified stress. Now coherence is beginning to reinforce coherence. Regulation supports regulation. This is why the shift feels subtle yet firm. Nothing here asks you to act. Nothing asks you to wait. Nothing asks you to prepare. At this stage, what matters is recognition without urgency. Recognition allows stabilization to hold. Without recognition, the system seeks intensity to feel movement. With recognition, movement continues without strain. This is why the need for dramatic proof fades. The impulse to monitor events weakens. The urge to persuade dissolves. These are signs of maturity returning to the field. Transformation no longer arrives through disruption. It arrives through coherence becoming normal. When regulation becomes ordinary, reversal becomes unlikely. A system that has relearned balance does not easily return to chronic imbalance. Your role now is simple. You are not required to fix the world. You are not required to manage outcomes. You are not required to carry responsibility for the process. Your coherence contributes naturally. Your regulation reduces collective noise. Your presence supports stabilization without effort. This is sufficient. Before closing, it is important to seal this recognition consciously. Pause briefly. Notice the absence of urgency. Feel the steadiness available when nothing is being forced. Now anchor that steadiness. Write in the comments, I recognize the restoration of Earth and humanity as one process, and I remain coherent as it continues. Writing this sentence reinforces regulation at the level of the nervous system. It supports both personal stability and collective restoration without effort. This transmission does not end a journey. It confirms a state that is stabilizing. The skies clear as interference fades. Humanity steadies as the Earth steadies, and both continue forward together, quietly, naturally, and irreversibly. We remain with you,